All right, hard to believe. Michigan football spring practices coming to a close this week. Means we've got the Maize versus Blue spring game on Saturday. Obviously, won't be broadcast, so we're going to talk about how you can follow along with our coverage on Saturday, and obviously leading up to it, we've got the biggest storylines. We're going to talk Bryce. We're going to talk offense. We're going to talk defense, and take your questions here. Hail to the podcast. We are here. Hail to the podcast, brought to you by Maize Blue Review. We cover Michigan for the Rivals Network, which means you can find us at michigan.rivals.com. Sorry for the Monday show instead of Sunday. Figured there was no sense competing with Mr. Rory McIlroy and the Masters coverage, and probably a wise decision. So, hey, like I said, we're going to go through our biggest storylines of the spring game and take some questions as well. Those of you that are watching us live, as always, drop your comments, questions in there, be a part of the show. If you are listening back on podcast apps or watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, notification bell, so you do know when we go live. You can be part of the conversation. If you are watching, you can see there's only two of us today. Mr. Brock Heilig could not join us, so I am here as well. Or I am here with our Intel insider and publisher, Mr. Josh Hedsky. A little tired. We'll get through it. First off, how you doing? Second off, you're wearing one of my favorite shirts, so let me see it again. I love it. It's so ridiculous.
I'm good. Yeah, Brock couldn't find an available room somewhere in his house tonight.
Hard to believe.
He couldn't make it in, but yeah, it's good. Everything's good.
Yeah, we've seen that man broadcast from a closet during a large family party. So if he's not here, you know he can't make it, right? Like something's going on. So, all right, let's say we're gonna talk spring game storylines. Before we get into the players and the rosters and the obvious stuff, I want to kind of talk about spring games in general because they've become a big topic this offseason. We've had a couple programs literally cancel their spring games and come out and say, oh, with the tampering and blah, blah, blah. We've had programs like Colorado and Syracuse say, we'll play each other. We'll do a scrimmage. Let's go. And Michigan, to their credit, still holding the spring game, but kind of a hybrid thing, not letting them broadcast it till after the portal closes. So we'll kind of get into all of that. I real quick, though, well, you go ahead. I've got a couple different rants in my head, so we'll see which one you choose first, and then I'll fill in the other void. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to get excited at all for a spring game, especially the way Michigan has run it I wouldn't say the last couple of years, but, before the draft and all that stuff that they did, it was hard for me to really get into it. Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about it, I mean, it's good. I'll preface everything I say by saying it's good for the fans, a free opportunity for the fans to come in and who may not, get a chance to go to Michigan Stadium, and create their own memories of being in the stadium and, watching Michigan play. I think that's extremely important. For me personally, you can't really glean much from a spring game. Unless Michigan is playing a scrimmage against another team like Colorado and Syracuse are trying to do.
So you like that idea? You would be up for that?
Yeah, I would. It just doesn't. It just doesn't move the needle for me. It just the regular format of them playing against themselves, especially now with smaller roster sizes. If you're going to shrink the number, you're going to have less players to play against each other. And so, if I don't know the logistics, that's just not. That's not my problem to worry about, but, logistics wise, I think it would be good for another program to come in or vice versa. Michigan would never go anywhere, but Michigan, Michigan would have someone, whether that means, they play I don't know, like a Ferris or something like that. They come in and host them for a little, a one-off exhibition, kind of like what basketball does. They play an exhibition before the regular season. Again, I don't know what logistics look like, how you could make that happen, injuries and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, a spring game in its regular format for me just doesn't really move the needle. Again, it's good. It's more directed towards the fan instead of the analytical eye. I mean, yeah, you can take stuff away, but we're not going to do some massive breakdowns of film, coming away from spring. I mean, there is little bits, but again, it's nothing that you can go, hey, this is what to expect,
right.
6 months from now, once the ball, gets rolling come season time. So it just doesn't, it's old for me, but I'm just a grump, like
you've been doing it over a decade.
Yeah. But again, I totally respect it and appreciate it from a fan perspective,
right?
For someone that may not get the chance to go. So I totally get that part of it. And I view that as more important than, what's on the field.
Yeah. For me, from a reporter coverage standpoint, for me, the spring game's always kind of been like, all right, let me see confirmation of the things the coaches and players have been saying this spring.
Yep.
Right. Let me see the guys playing in the spots you've told me they've been playing in. Let me get, and I don't want to get into too many of my storylines because this is kind of one of them, but I want to get a look at some of the new guys too. It's just cool. Right. Bryce is going to be a huge deal. People want to see Bryce. Right. But you touched on one of my biggest points, which is, as a father of a young kid who has some special needs, I know going to a spring game is going to be the first opportunity I have to bring him in and kind of see how he does in the environment before maybe a full game. Right. And I know there's people for a host of other reasons. That's one. And for different reasons that, like you said, this is their opportunity to go and be in Michigan Stadium and see Michigan and make memories. Right. And the truth is, it's a cost to Michigan because they do it for free.
Yep.
And there's still event staff and there's still security and they still need to have, health professionals on campus or out in the stadium. Right. It's expensive to do this. And that's why I scoffed at some of the people that are like, oh, the tampering and blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't want to pay. Let's be honest. You don't want to eat the cost of it. It's just a fact. Like, to take so many things are being asked of fans now to literally be the main contributors to NIL for these players and everything, the ticket prices, everything's way up. You can't give them a spring game. Right. And on the flip of that, if it is tampering, and this is so prevalent, which we know it is, right? How is it the NCAA could tell Colorado and Syracuse like that? No way, can't do that, not happening. But we continue to see all these other issues they just can't seem to address, right? Something cool for the fans. Colorado, Syracuse holding a spring game. Don't you dare do that. Shut down. Satellite camps, exposure for all these players. No, can't have it, right? But the tampering, the stuff we've seen with the pay for play with Nico and now him holding out and getting cut, all these other things going on. They just can't seem to figure it out. But spring game screwing over fans, whatever. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be fair, like to the satellite camp stuff, a lot of that was because of Saban bitching.
Yeah.
So part
just
of that
example that popped in my head.
Yeah. But I mean, you're not wrong, but I don't think I've seen any coaches, at least not that I've been paying attention to, like vehemently disagree with playing another program or going somewhere and playing another program. I mean, I haven't, at least publicly, I haven't seen.
I think you're right. The logistics of it, there's other pieces that'd be involved, but
you'd have to sign like
props for just coming up with an idea.
Yeah.
But
it's like it's waiver stuff. You got to think about an extra expense for travel, bringing all your players, all the equipment. Again, it's easier. It's easier if you're a school that fortunately has, some directional programs like Michigan does, where you don't necessarily have to worry about going great distances to bring someone in. But yeah, it's all part of the logistics, which, again, if you're looking for money, that's another great opportunity for these smaller schools to get a little payday, to go to Michigan, get their asses kicked, and not have it count against their record. It's so there's ways to, I think, freshen up the spring game and kind of give it a new coat of paint that at least make it something, I don't know how you do it.
I'll tell you what, if you watched Ohio State's spring game, I don't know if you watched any of that. What Michigan does is night and day from a competitive standpoint. They're actually hitting, tackling. You've got the Maize versus Blue, where the one team gets this huge stake. I mean, they've been competitive, at least, and the players seem to care. I'm with you. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but compared to what some other schools are doing, I don't know. Yeah, it kind of feels like it's going the way of these all-star games where, like, what's the correct answer, right? But I get so mad when fans get screwed out of a really cool opportunity. And two, that this tampering thing, it's like we spent years pretending schools weren't paying players.
Right.
And now that we finally have NIL and revenue share and all this stuff trending in this one direction, and I know there's still no guardrails, they got to figure that out. Now we're just pretending tampering's not happening. And it's just so annoying to me. But anyway, let's get into the spring practices coming to an end of the spring games themselves. My first topic was going to be the spring games in general. So Josh, I'll go ahead and let you choose. What's the next storyline for you think heading into the spring games?
Oh, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what the biggest one is. It's the quarterbacks. It's just.
I thought you were going to say special teams.
Yeah. Seeing Marlon Klein punt. I mean, it's very possible.
No, you're right. It's absolutely the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the first answer. It might be the only answer, really, because I mean, this offense is going to live and die by the quarterback. And if Bryce is who we think he is, and he certainly has been saying the right things, and people have been also saying the right things about him too. This should be an improved offense, and not to mention too that Chip Lindsey's coming in and refreshing the offense a little bit and kind of bringing in new ideas while kind of keeping things mostly the same. So the quarterback position and how it operates, but I think it goes outside of Bryce too. I think you want to see what you have with Jaden Davis as well, who, continues to have good things said about him. I don't think it's going to be good enough. Actually, I know it's probably not going to be good enough to take over the momentum that Bryce has built.
Right.
But if he's an effective backup right now, then that's what Michigan needs, because they didn't have effective backup last year, and you could see what happened there. So, really, I mean, I don't want to make it just like a blanket like storyline like offense, but the quarterbacks and how everything operates is just, it's so intertwined and it all works together that you kind of almost have to make it like just one storyline in a way, because as Justin mentioned here in the comments, they want to see McCulley and Browder and the receivers in general. It's all part of it. You got to have someone that can get them the ball to see what they have. And Michigan just didn't have that last year. So you don't know what you have. So, I mean, it all works together. So, seeing some effective quarterback play, it will at least be encouraging. I'm not going to just declare, problem solved after just one spring game, but you'd like to see a good performance, at least something to lean on and say, hey, this is encouraging. Hopefully this continues moving forward.
Well, as we know, it's been just Bryce and Jadyn basically all spring, right? So with Mikey Keene hurt and Davis Warren still coming back from his injury, potentially not at all this year, but hopefully by fall, it's just been the two of them. And I've heard a lot of public comments from players and some stuff behind the scenes as well, where they're like really, really happy they've only had two quarterbacks all spring.
Yeah,
because it was so difficult rotating these 4 to 5 guys last year at a given time, trying to get everybody reps and blah blah. There's been some consistency. For me, it's going to be like Bryce just being out there and throwing. It's going to be cool. What can he do? Can he make this hype any more than it is already? right? Which I do want to touch on that in a second too. But Jaden Davis, man, I'm impressed. Everybody just wrote him off last year. There was a lot of crazy things being said.
Mm-hmm.
His throwing motion has been picked apart, which again, I do think he has a long throwing motion. It looks a little bit better. Still brings it down low. There's plenty of other people that can spend more time picking that apart, but all reports are his attitude's been incredible. He's been latched onto Bryce. And I think that's really cool, because I think he's looking at this as, at worst, an opportunity to learn from Bryce Underwood. Right. At worst. But I think even a Keene, at this point, even Keene coming back, even Michigan adding another quarterback in the portal to have some type of veteran depth, Jadyn Davis has got to feel pretty good about being QB2.
Yeah.
At this point. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you choose, somebody brought up too, like Amir Kumba entered the portal, right? One thing I never understand about these guys bailing early and a lot of times not starting at the place they go to next or taking a huge step down is Kumba just got 2 years in the Michigan football program. And he was a guy that came from overseas.
Yep.
We knew he was going to be a project anyway, right? But strength and conditioning, being in a championship program, that pedigree, being around that, whatever. If you weren't going to play anyway, why not spend 2 years at a place like Michigan? You still have 3 years of eligibility left, right? So props to him for sticking it out. We'll see, after spring, hopefully I'm hoping he's still staying regardless of that job. Yeah, I want to see the steps he's taken and see, again, do my eyes match up with what I've been told?
Right. That's the big thing too. It's like it's kind of why I've been so hesitant to even post stuff on the boards about spring intel, because
last year
I feel so burnt about last year that I'm kind of like, well, now I need to see it to believe it in order for me to even stand behind what I've been told.
To be fair, though,
but most of it is public. The people that feed us stuff is people who watch practice. So a lot of it is personal opinion on top of what they're seeing. So, one day it could be one guy watching a practice and someone has a really bad day. And then, it's the one bad day that guy had all spring or fall, whatever it is. And then that equates to, hey, so-and-so is doing really, really bad in practice. And it's, so-and-so looks really bad. So, I feel burnt about last year. We'll circle back to my rant that I had.
I should have that on playback. That was so good.
I kind of regret it a little bit, but hey, whatever.
But here's the thing. Here's why you shouldn't. And this is what I was going to say. Here's a theory people don't discuss enough, right? Were people lying last year, or were the coaches wrong?
It could be both. They could be both.
I think if you look at the offensive line, as I've talked about, I think Greg Crippen felt, and this is me saying think, okay, I'm prefacing with think here. I think he probably felt pretty burned. And I think the coaches are willing to admit they put too much weight into fall camp and the pressure of like the decision making and this and that. And like, I think they made some wrong choices. And I think that the offense clearly wasn't being properly implemented and executed through the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they just didn't do it right. We saw Michigan kind of have to reset after failing the offseason, and it took some time and a couple bye weeks. It was, hey, that Northwestern game, and we've heard players flat out say this spring that something just wasn't right. And the culture wasn't right, blah, 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 right? And it's like that Northwestern game, because it was the last game at Michigan Stadium, was the spark. And then Ohio State, spark, and Alabama. And they figured it out at the end. And I wonder if that's just the cost of messing up the offseason.
Yeah.
And thinking some guys were in a better spot. And that's why I was going to say another storyline kind of building off of this Bryce thing. I think some people misinterpret the hype that's coming out right now is what Bryce is doing, saying what people are saying about him relative to expectation of him arriving at spring of, I guess, what you would even expect, not even just of a Bryce Underwood, but maybe a freshman quarterback. I don't think you have to make that leap to Bryce is going to have a Heisman season.
Yeah.
I have no idea how he's going to react to college defenses, the speed of the game, if he's going to be able to hold back on interceptions, make mistakes, right? The JJ narrative that's come up, because I posted a comment that somebody said that they feel Bryce is at or ahead of where a JJ was at the start of 2022.
I'm not even going to get into that.
No, but and I'm not going to. That's what that person thinks.
Yeah.
So, but here's my point. People forget the JJ versus Cade narrative was Cade was your safe pick. He was your game manager. He wasn't going to turn it over. JJ was the playmaker, but he's going to make mistakes. He's going to turn it over. Are you willing to take that risk? Blah, blah, blah. And then what happened was JJ didn't turn it over, right? And they still kind of used him like a game manager or whatever.
Yeah.
The comparison to me with Bryce is he's 17 years old. And physically, he looks like he's 22.
Right.
Mentally, he's incredibly mature, articulate. He's a leader already. Like you're in a college football program at 17 and people are gravitating towards you, right? The work ethic, he's not showing up like the arrogant, I'm going to throw the number out there, $12 million man, right? Like all of the things that I think is where the hype is coming from relative to what you would expect from a normal 17-year-old freshman quarterback that got paid all this money, blah, blah, blah. Bryce is exceeding those expectations. Will it translate to the field? Man, I hope so. I'm not predicting that until I see it. And I think it's fair for both of those things to be true.
Yeah. And I want to circle back on this comment real quick, because just before we move on, I don't know if it's even like buying what they were saying. It's more so when you are told the same thing from multiple people, you tend to believe what's being said as accurate. And yeah, maybe, and who knows, maybe it is buying it hook, line, and sinker. But again, it's like multiple people, and I'm not even talking coaching staff. This happened. This happened from multiple observers, people in the program, outside the program, related to the program, whatever. It kept being told. So I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to like defend myself or anything like that. But it's just
I think it's important for people to know too, like a little inside baseball. And I can only speak for us.
Right.
I don't post what one person tells me.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
We will never do that. Whether this is us trying to break a story or it's intel or even just like things that we're hearing, right? Josh and I text all day, every day.
Yeah.
And we have different connections and blah, blah, blah. One thing we always try to figure out too is, hey, what are the odds that your guy and my guy are talking to the same guy? Right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're like, oh, I've got 3 people telling me the same information, but it's all trickling down. So we try really hard too. Like you just brought up, this wasn't just coaches. It was practice observers. It was former players, right? Like when I've got, and even with the Bryce hype, I've said, look, I've had a current player who has been with the program since 21. I've had a former player. I've had a current staff member. And I've had somebody who was very, very close to the program and is close to Bryce all say the same thing about him. So 4 different avenues of relationship to Michigan football, all saying the same thing. I'm going to share that I've heard that. And that's all their opinion, right?
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't necessarily translate to the field. But like I'm thinking of the Jayshon Barham hype, Josh. I think that was the most obvious one that really kind of felt like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of the phrase specifically, he was a faster Devin Bush.
Yeah.
And that came out of Grant Newsom's mouth. Right. And that came out of, again, I don't remember if this was said public or private or not, but I'm talking about a guy who is considered a legend at Michigan football from the Harbaugh era. He said it, like anyone who saw this dude was saying it. And then they get on the field and maybe it's a consequence of Wink's defense and him being put in weird spots or whatever. Things just didn't click, right? I don't think people lied. I think they were just wrong or they didn't properly prepare.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean? If that's.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like a mixture of someone's being fed the Kool-Aid and that Kool-Aid's being fed to someone else. And that Kool-Aid, we're all drinking from the same Kool-Aid cup a little bit, like,
right.
So we're all getting each other's informational backwash, so to speak, in terms of like the recycled intel. So, I mean, I don't regret saying what I did last year. I mean, this is stuff that people were saying. Some of it was right. And some of it was just way off by proven on the field. And again, like there's a fine line between doing it on in the practice field and then doing it on Saturdays. So it's sometimes one happens and the other doesn't happen. Sometimes it might not happen in practice, but it happens in the game. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to like call anyone out and saying that they're wrong and how they think about how we handled things. It's just kind of,
I thought that honestly, the way he did that, I'm 100% cool with.
Yeah,
People
no,
have come in here and been assholes as a fair critique. He gave us an opportunity to talk through it. I have no issue with that.
yeah,
whatsoever.
and I kind of like, we've always say that we like to be transparent, so I kind of just, like
when
to
you were upset last year, you felt like your credibility was put out there, man.
Yeah, no, yeah, I did, but it is what it is now. So
there it is.
They still managed to beat Ohio State.
Isn't
Oh
that funny?
boy, I still can't believe that. But yeah, anyway, I like to be transparent in how we operate and all that good stuff. So, we're easily accessible. We're not going to big time anyone. So, if anyone wants to ask us a question or how we operate, fire away. I'm happy to talk about it.
Absolutely. That's why we try to do this the way we do it. The last little thing I would say on that, everything we do when it comes to this kind of stuff, there's a difference between.
This is a really good point by Darren, by the way. It's very possible the coaches and players are riding the emotional wave of the
That's actually, I think it's a great point because the players have said as much.
Yeah.
I think it was Semaj that said basically that. Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think
you cut from a different cloth. I appreciate that. I promise I wasn't trying to call you out. It was a good comment. You just happened to be the guy that had
people have seen you call people out before.
that was not a call out. That was
you'll know when Josh is mad at you. No, the last little thing I'll put on that is I think there's a difference between when we're wearing our journalistic hat and reporting facts and things that have occurred. Whether it's the Shemi situation and stuff like that, and us putting out their intel and things we've heard. You're allowed to receive that information and make of it what you will. I'm not telling you have to believe this or that. You take what you've heard and feel free to make your own opinion from it. But so let's take I do have some other ones I want to get to, but we've got quite a few comments. Take a look here. The McGee approach. I'm not getting guys now and wait until the end to bring out that serious. The McGee thing is kind of spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
in my view. I think you saw how Michigan's approach paid off last year.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they had a late start. So we do this every single year to some extent as well, with people getting nervous about recruiting in spring and summer, and then it picks up in the fall and the winter, and it feels like an every year thing. So I think Michigan has had this approach in the chamber as a plan for a long time. Yeah. I think there's still just not that last final bit of clarity that they want until that house deal is complete.
Yeah.
And I know that's part of it. Okay. And I also think until I'm proven otherwise, I have faith, because every year we do this and it kind of works out. You're going to see guys commit. And I'm not saying this happens every time. Michigan loses recruiting battles. You lose more than you win when you look at your offers to commits, right? But at the end of the day, I think, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. I just think that Michigan not pressuring a kid to commit right away. We're not saying here's your offer, take it or leave it, and trying to get that quick commit because they know sometimes that can cause other dominoes to fall. But then at the end of the year, trying to keep people, and Michigan's more closing the deal at the end of the year. I approve their approach right now until I see otherwise.
Yeah.
The one spot I know everybody's thinking about running back, if Osborne goes to Notre Dame and you lose out on Hyder, I that's going to be a questionable situation because you've invested so much into those two. And then we can talk about Alfred and things like that. But I just hate last year. Notre Dame was the darling of the early recruiting cycle. And right now they are kind of again, and Michigan ended up above them. So I'm just not ready to freak out on it yet. But.
Yeah, I'm not either. And really, what's the percentage of programs that keep early commitments through the whole cycle? Even like from April until now. I mean, with NIL now, I mean, that percentage has got to be, I don't know, below.
We had more flips than ever last year. It was like, what, 4 of the top 5 QBs flipped in the last month?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's crazy. So I don't mind Michigan's approach. I mean, Michigan is, even before this NIL nonsense started, Michigan has always been strong closers in terms of how they
always,
and their cycles. So NIL now they've gotten even better at closing and even making some surprise little sneaky moves that no one was talking about, like the Nate Marshalls coming in and getting him back into the fold late. Mm-hmm. So I would much rather wait and get a sure thing in December than getting an early commitment in April and then having to worry about your commit wanting to go through official visits and all that stuff. So
because they're taking the visits anyway.
Right, they're going to take the visits. So yeah, I'd much rather them, go through. Their offers are going to be their offers, and they're going to be strong. I mean, we've seen that Michigan is willing to pony up some money, whether it's in the portal or recruiting, to bring in guys. So, and it's shown that recruits who are committed elsewhere are also open to listening to offers from Michigan as well. So I'm not worried about where Michigan sits in April. I care more about where they sit in December. If and I agree with you though, if they lose out on Hyder, then oh boy, you should be a little nervous. However, if you lose out on Hyder in April, doesn't necessarily mean you won't be able to get back in on him in December, depending on how things go. You could be a coach leaving, a coach gets fired, whatever. That totally changes the trajectory of a recruitment. So there's so many moving parts in April that just don't mean anything right now when you're talking about in December or even January, if you're talking about February kids. So, and now with the transfer portal is what it is. And Keegan again brings up a really good point. You can offset your losses with the portal. I mean, let's say Michigan, Hyder was a 2025 recruit, and Michigan lost out on him. Well, you bring in Justice Haynes, who A, has more experience, B, is college ready, and C, you can plug and play and not have to worry about it. So there's just so many moving parts right now. The recruiting game has completely changed, in my opinion, that you can offset some tough losses with portal guys. Maybe guys like Bryce, Underwood are probably guys you can't afford to miss, that if you swing on. But there are other positions that you can kind of offset with experienced guys. And so it's April. I'm just not worried.
Well, and I'm going to I don't know what term I want to use. I think I've already used inside baseball and behind the scenes. So, but maybe just for those who don't know, when it comes to the collectives and these NIL conversations and people are saying, oh, McGee's not really giving any final number right now. That's because it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
We see this over and over again, that what these programs do is make the offer and then try and go get the money.
Yep.
And then sometimes it's not there. And these players, again, not to make a big picture thing about contracts and blah, 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 but then all of a sudden something that was promised to them doesn't exist. That's why you see a lot of these kids flipping, or maybe class is not closing as well at the end because they made the offer first and then maybe it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? So Michigan is able to show with the charts and everything they have, like, look, this is what we do. And also, here's where you're going to be. I can't say this enough for people that keep forgetting. Well, Michigan was doing at the start of NIL and will continue to do is reward the players that are here. That's why they had such great retention this year, right? I don't care what number Bryce Underwood you think he's getting paid now. I don't care what that number is because, one, I know it's less than what JJ made in 23. And I know it's nothing compared to what he's going to make in 26, 27 if he actually turns out to be what everybody thinks he's going to be.
Exactly.
Because the businesses that are going to come to Michigan and want to be in business with Bryce Underwood are going to be massive, right? And that's what Michigan's telling these kids. And again, come fall, they have a lot more clearer numbers because that's just how it works. That's when the numbers come together. Whatever kids are being told now is projective. And then they go back and go, okay, we promised this kid 1.5. We got to find it.
Yep.
All right. This car dealership, you want to do $100,000 for that running back? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
so there's a shady part to it too. But anyway,
yeah, I mean,
and
that's what Michigan does really well too is the synergy with the collectives that there's a fine line drawn and it's pretty transparent too.
God, it's funny to hear you say that because that was not the case a couple
No,
years
it definitely
ago.
wasn't. There's actually, yeah. I mean, at first there was some disconnect, but I mean, there's a reason why you're not hearing compared to other places that the money isn't there for these guys, or that that they're making promises that they can't keep. So, it's there. It just has to get there, and there's stuff that hoops they have to go through. Of course,
Dave's point here, like we've talked about this, as great as the finish was last year, as great as the momentum is coming into this year, getting Bryce and closing out the class well, and the hype is there, and everybody's back to feeling really good, and you made the immediate change on offense, and blah, blah, blah. If it doesn't look better on the field,
yeah,
I'm telling you, dude, you're getting 5-star wide receivers to come visit. They are not coming until you show that you're willing to let Bryce Underwood throw the football.
Absolutely.
They're not. They need to see it.
It's all in the tape.
I need to see it.
The proof is in the pudding, and you got to show it.
Make that pudding.
Yep, you got to show the pud.
Another storyline for me, again, more of a confirmation thing. I kind of disagree with you. You say everything kind of rests on Bryce this year. I mean,
well, not everything, but a lot of it, a majority of it.
Yeah, he's important, right?
Yeah.
I really think because of Michigan's identity and what I think caused so many issues last year, the offensive line for me.
Yeah.
Because if Bryce isn't protected, we've seen how that impacts the play calling. We've seen, Chip Lindsey and all that stuff aside. Sherrone Moore's identity is offensive line.
Yeah.
It's who he was as a player. It's how he came up largely as a coach. I know he was tight end, whatever, but you replace a guy like Ed Warner and win the Joe Moore Award right away and smash, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, you got to get the O-line figured out. And they've done a really good job with recruiting the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's another spot where you're seeing maybe some recruits are like, hey, I know what you did. I believe you. I need to see it one more time, though. I need to see that last year was a fluke, right? So I'm interested to see the depth in some of the position battles out there. And again, this is not going to be, like you said, I'm not cutting up the film and whatever, but is Brady Norton taking a lot of snaps at left tackle? Does he look bigger? Lots of talk that he's over 300 pounds. What does he look like size-wise with the defensive tackles? Yeah. Does Evan Link play guard, et cetera? You can get into some of those. But for me, that's a big one. I want to see who goes out there and where on the offensive line.
Yeah, look, you could be the greatest play caller in the history of football, but if your offensive line can't block anyone, can't create holes for the running backs, can't give your quarterback time to complete a pass, then you're just not going to be good. There's nothing you can scheme out of with a bad offensive line. So yeah, I agree. The offensive line and Bryce need to work in synergy. You can have one guy, one group better than the other, I guess. Like you can kind of take your pick. I'd prefer, honestly, it to be the offensive line better than Bryce, but I would love to see a true freshman protected.
We've seen this team win a Big Ten championship with a Joe Moore Award offensive line and Cade McNamara at quarterback. So I get what you're saying. Yeah.
You don't want to see a guy get Christian Hackenberg early in his career and totally ruined. So yeah, I mean, I do not disagree with you at all. I'd love to see what the offensive line looks like, and you're not gonna, as you said, you're not gonna be totally sold on the direction it's headed, but you'd like to see something. I don't know what that is in terms of how they're gonna work their spring game and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's all gonna matter once it kicks off here in the season. So yeah, you want to see them pass the eye test, I guess, is what. And the same goes with Bryce too. It's the eye test. Does he look the part? Do they look comfortable? a lot of other different things too. But yeah, you'd like to see the Nortons, what the Evan Link looks like in year 2 with experience. So yeah, I don't think, I think, as we mentioned in the last episode, of the podcast, with all this added attention onto the
Yes.
quarterbacks,
Good point.
the offensive line, the receivers, it added attention in terms of adding staff. And I guess you can technically add Sherrone Moore as an added staff because he's being more focused on the offensive line. If they're not better, then something is fundamentally wrong that needs to be looked at. It's more than just a talent issue. It's a development issue. So, yeah, I mean, with all this focus, you better see progress. You better see something, being done to make them better than what they were last year. I mean, they weren't horrible. They weren't the best. They were very, very average last year. And that was enough for them to win some big games and really get this momentum rolling into the offseason. So, yeah, if they aren't better just because of the fact that they've got all this extra attention and added staffers to them, then yeah, there's something fundamentally wrong.
No, I appreciate the way you frame that, because one of the reasons I stayed such a Sherrone Moore defender when people were ready to start jumping off last year was I said, look, for a first-year head coach, when he came in, and now, the hindsight of the whole continuity handoff and all that, but like the biggest thing everybody kept asking is what's going to be the same, what's going to be different. And he had this mentality, which I think is fair, of if it's not broke, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Right.
Yep.
Recruiting's broke. Here's what I'm going to do. And he laid out such a clear vision and plan and then did it. So he proved to me that he can see fault in something, develop a plan, implement it, and then boom, here's success, quick turnaround. So I have faith he can do that now with the offense. I think last year, he really assumed, man, our offensive line will still be good. Our running game's good. All these things are going to stay the same. We're just going to let Kirk come in and sprinkle in a little bit more passing. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. That's where I said they were just wrong. And like Juju brings up, Moore's not going to hover over Chip. He's the head coach of the offense. Back to your point of let Chip do everything with that. That should free him up to be with the offensive line a little bit. Go back and watch the 24 season when you're worried about so much you can't be head coach. And look, Moore admitted he was spending a ton of time on recruiting last year, and he's going to continue to do that. He's the best recruiter on the team or on the staff, right? But a lot of that infrastructure that he had to put in place last year is in place this year. Yeah. But you're right. You've come out and said offense was a problem. You fired Kirk day 2. You replaced him with a vet. You said offensive line was a problem. You got Castillo back. You said, I'm going to spend more time with the offensive line. You got Biff Poggi back. You've done all these things. So yeah, if we don't see that same result curve, then right.
Yeah.
The fact people wanted to fire the man after 16 was nuts. I mean, there's people that didn't want him hired from the get-go. I think the Venn diagram of people that wanted him fired quickly and hired are probably very similar. I think we were maybe all guilty of talking ourselves into, there's going to be no change.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. It's still going to be the same.
Yeah.
When, again, how many players they lost, how many leaders they lost, the amount of staff turnover, like, I don't know. I think that's one situation where I'm like, maybe I got caught too much, right? Like,
still beat Ohio State, though.
Yeah. Still beat Ohio State.
Oh,
that's so funny.
Oh, no.
Yep, Soup too. Soup Campbell.
Yeah, as I said, like you'd have to start looking deeper than if things are going wrong. Like you'll have to start looking at your long-term position coaches if you don't see any type of growth. If it's a step backwards, then yeah, you gotta make some moves. But again, that's getting way too over our skis.
Yeah. No, but I think it's just trying to say like, hey, this is identify, implement, blah, 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 where we are in terms of what we're, this is so true. The best it was the best 8-5 season of all time.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. Yep. Let's touch on one last, I could do 2 more, but let's do one last one. I feel like nickel's been beat to death at this point. So, I mean, everybody knows that position's getting rotated. I think we're so far from knowing anything. Like, it'll be cool to see who rolls out there, but I don't know that there's anything super interesting to talk about there. Excuse me. This kind of ties into the Bryce thing. For me, I think the fun thing is this is the first look at some early enrollees, some first look at some red shirt freshmen, maybe, some guys like Cole Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
Again, validate that hype for me. Dom Nichols, the guys coming, Jordan Marshall, these second year guys that are they taking that next step? Seeing Bryce, seeing Andrew Marsh, seeing Jamar Browder, seeing Shamari Earls. The beginning, it's where it starts to feel like a new team. Because it's a new team. And when you see like the new numbers and the new players and kind of see like you get kind of a peek of maybe who the top guys are gonna be, right? I think that's the part I'm really excited for too. It's just cool to have that freshness and see the new guys.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to hear some names trickle out too now with Brian Jean-Marie getting to the media on Monday, mentioned Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng a lot. I mean, he was asked obviously, but mentioned him a lot, saying that they really are excited about him and think he's going to be really good. Starting to look the part. That's goes into your just guys that you're hoping to see. Even Chase Taylor got some love today by both Jean-Marie and JB Brown, both for him playing as a linebacker and also being a special teams
guy. Did they say this Bowles been hurt, or what did they say about
Bowles? Has not been practicing. He had a cleanup surgery before he arrived, and that was already cleared by Michigan. Michigan told him, "Hey, we'll just don't rush back. You'll compete once you get back." So he hasn't been added officially into the mix yet in terms of competition, but he should be good for fall. So that's another piece that they're going to throw in there come fall. So,
connect the dots when a guy like Jason Hewlett gets to the portal.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
No shot at Jason Hewlett. I like the guy, but like, that's what you're seeing now is these guys that are like, hey, I'm seeing the depth chart. Yeah. I've only got a year or two left.
Well, yeah, you can say the same for Jaden McBurrows too with the nickel position. I mean, there's a lot of guys there, and
I don't want to rotate, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking on the glass half full type of thing, you'd assume that these guys are leaving because they've got established guys who are establishing themselves on the depth chart. So, it's all about just seeing these new faces and seeing whether they look the part, and getting where these coaches' compliments are actually well placed. And I think for a guy like just singling out two in particular, Cole Sullivan and Owusu-Boateng, I definitely think they're going to look the part, and people are going to be talking about them for a while now, especially Cole Sullivan. I think he's going to have a big year.
Yeah.
Jean-Marie was not shy in saying, hey, we're going to rely on this kid this year. He's going to have a big role for us. So I think when those guys say something like that, you're at least going to see them. Whether that translates to them actually performing in said role remains to be seen. But even Jimmy Rolder too. They mentioned Jimmy Rolder. That basically he's the 1B starter behind Ajay Sean Barham and Ernest Hausman as well.
Yep.
So just got to stay healthy. I mean, that's really what I mean for all of these guys. Just got to stay healthy, and you'll get that opportunity.
I know it's not really a spring game note, but like in terms of spring practices coming to the close, one of the storylines I talked about coming in was that leadership piece. I think, and again, I don't mean this as a shot. I mean, having Rod Moore not on the field as much as he did, being around the program, practice, sideline, whatever, it's just not the same thing as having your captain on the field balling and making plays, right? I just don't think we know actually they didn't have that leadership maybe they needed, because Josiah Stewart gets named a captain halfway through the year.
Yeah.
Right. So who are going to be those guys this year? I thought it was really cool to hear Ernest Hausman be called the leader of the defense today.
Yeah.
That stuck out to me as a good thing and a big deal. Right.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, the quarterback of my defense, the guy who I think is going to play an insane amount of snaps and is going to be a really important contributor, is also the leader. Perfect. Well, let me hear a guy like Derek Moore, and I don't even care freshman, sophomore, senior, whatever. But like, if my quarterback's Bryce Underwood, I want him to be a leader.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like,
absolutely.
Just, a piece of it. If it's going to be Donaven McCulley as wide receiver one, you know what? I want him to be a leader too. I don't want him just making plays on the field. I want him bringing everyone along with him. Right. Yeah. So I think that's the next piece. Again, we won't know till the season gets there, but I put it up. But yeah, that McBurrow's interception revenge after the tunnel incident. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But guy just couldn't stay healthy. He had some of the biggest hits I mean, he was pre-Brandon Hillman for me, right? The guy that reckless abandon. Anyway, hope he does well. Let's knock out a few of these questions before we take off. Barham being mentioned as a good blitzer means they like him as a fifth rusher. And that's why I brought this up on the last show, Steve, where they kept saying, "Oh yeah, we put him at edge a ton last year." You didn't, though.
Yeah,
you blitzed him a lot, but you didn't line him up at edge a ton. I'll be interested to see if they do like 4-3, where maybe it's Houseman, Rolder, and Barham out there at the same time. Or, are these guys, is Barham coming, in terms of the rotation, how they do that with using Barham more as a blitzer? Because I do think Rolder's definitely more of a Mike, and then Cole Sullivan can be that guy to go get after the quarterback. We've talked about since his recruitment that we thought he might end up at edge.
Yeah.
Just because of his frame and how good he is at pass rush. It's clear they like him at linebacker. So that versatility, that'll be fun to see. Jamal Sachs is a pro. Yeah. I just think Barham's better there, but that's a different thing. Wide receiver, I'm assuming Anthony Simpson. No, he's coming in the summer.
Yeah.
Lawrence Hatter, the guard from Ferris State. He's the other transfer joining in the summer. And then big recruit wise, Ty Haywood's probably the guy that, he'll be joining in the summer. Again, I know people are really excited about him and Babalola. It's just, oh man, it's so much to ask a freshman to.
Yeah, you got to give it time. You got to be patient there with those guys. I mean, they'll both be very good, but yeah, especially at Michigan and they have all the pieces that they have. It is a big ask for a true freshman to come in and
What's
do
up,
that.
Derek?
Hello, Derek. Good to see you.
Yeah. Nate Marshall's a guy I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be. The only problem with Edge is there's so many.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the thing with Barham too. Is like you really need to. I think if TJ Guy doesn't come back, I wouldn't be shocked if Barham's your starting weak side edge this year. But I think Derek Moore coming back, TJ Guy coming back, Cam Brandt coming back, Dom Nichols coming back. There's your 4 right there.
Right.
And I'm not even including guys like a Devin Baxter or a Lugard Edikpe that might be ready to crack in and start getting some reps. I mean, and that's why a guy like Kumba's like, all right, well, I'm here on my progression, but I'm not cracking this too deep, right? So,
right. Well, I mean, that's a good thing about Michigan having depth all over the field now. Now they have depth at linebacker where they can afford to be kind of creative with Barham and not necessarily have him be an every down linebacker. They can have him do different things, but they can feel good knowing that, you've got Houseman there to back him up, and now Rolder that they're relying on, and then a Cole Sullivan who's emerging too. So, they have depth. I mean, it's good now. They have a lot of good depth and depth that has had a lot of good experience last year. All of that is good experience. Win, loss, whatever it was, those guys played. It was good experience. It was time on task and stuff that they needed to develop. So, it's just it's just good stuff. It's good stuff. There's depth, a lot to be excited about. You just got to see it, come to fruition here once the season gets going.
Well, I think that's a spot too, to your point, that perfectly shows how Michigan is going to handle recruiting, transfer portal, etc. in the future, because they had some misses at linebacker, and Michael Barrett and Junior Colson held that spot down for a hot minute, right? And then it was clear there was a lapse there. So you go get Ernest Houseman.
Yeah.
The first year, and he kind of plays in a rotational role and steps up into a bigger spot. The next year, same thing. You still kind of got a lapse there because no matter what you thought about a Rolder, he had some injuries, right? So then you go get Barham, right? So your 2 starters now are transfers. What do you do the next year? Recruit the crap out of that position.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, Jeremiah Beasley gone, Hayden Moore gone. I feel like I'm forgetting another one at this point too. I mean, I know Hewlett just left. You had Pollard before that. Like that's the position that's kind of been decimated by transfer outs. But then you're like, oh, look at all this depth we have.
Yeah.
right? Because they've done such a good job of getting the transfers to fill the gap, getting the recruits to come in. And look, if you go into next year, right now you're hoping Sullivan gets plenty of playing time, so he's gonna be ready to be a star starter next year or whatever. But if you go into next year and some of these guys hit or miss, okay, plug and play with the portal, or adjust the way you recruit. It's really the way to do it. You take your shot on guys, and some are gonna work out and some aren't. And you just can't be mad when dudes leave. It's just the new reality of it. So let's do last one, and we'll actually get under an hour. Look at us go. Thoughts on the schedule? I know it's early, but shrugs.
Shrugs. That's kind of my thoughts on the schedule. I mean, I think it's favorable. It's a lot better than what Michigan's was last year.
The alternating home away thing is so weird to me.
Yeah, it's gonna have. Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma. I don't know. Like it's look, the first 4 games you got Michigan, you got New Mexico, Oklahoma, Central, and Nebraska. I think that's a good enough mix of challenge yet easy enough where you can kind of get these guys thrown into the fire a little bit. New Mexico State, I mean, you'd like to see more than one quarterback play. Oklahoma,
that better look like the Hawaii game from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Because that program has been through some things.
Right. I mean, am I crazy to think that Oklahoma's a winnable game, even though they're
I don't really know why people are so concerned about them. Like, maybe I'm not.
I mean, I would probably.
They're not Texas, man.
Right. I would probably give Oklahoma. I would probably make Michigan a 3-point dog heading into that game, just because.
I mean, I know they got Matier, and that's exciting.
Yeah, they got them at Oklahoma, and I think, so it's an early tough environment to play for a guy like Bryce. So
I'll give you that.
I don't think it's like an impossible game. I think it's winnable, but I mean, again, it's way too early for me to even like predict that game. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they can go, 4-0 heading into 3-0 heading into Nebraska. I mean,
we've had Nebraska tough. Yeah, I think the key is you got to avoid the trap games this year. You can't have the Illinois, you can't have the Washingtons, right? We went into last year and went, look, if you go 9-3, that's winning the games you're supposed to. You're going to lose to an Oregon, a Texas, Ohio State. Yeah. Those are the games you're going to be dogs in, right? So, again, very early. We don't know what it's going to look like, but I think we're in that point where even with a freshman quarterback, if you're not getting to Ohio State with at least a glimmer of a CFP berth, that 9-3, 10-2 bubble, if you're not getting to that game, right? If you're losing games you're not supposed to. I talked about all last year. What were people going to be willing to accept with Sherrone Moore? I think losses were going to be acceptable, but how did you lose?
Yeah.
Did you still look like the same team? Was it still max effort all the way through, but you just lost to a better team? That wasn't the case against Texas. Right? Like, Texas was a better team, but you got embarrassed and made you're the team making mistakes and the dumb turnovers and stuff like that. So if you lose to Oklahoma because they were better, you still played Michigan football. Maybe Bryce made a mistake you don't think he's going to make again later in his career. Okay. We'll see how we can adjust, but you just can't have, because again, if you have better QB play last year, we've already talked about this. You probably beat Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, you
probably beat Washington, Indiana, and all of a sudden you're a playoff team now.
Yeah, in spite of everything, Michigan could have won 10 games last year.
Easily.
In spite of all of that, all of everything that happened with the quarterback and all that stuff, they still are in position to win 10 games. So, is it too wild of an expectation to say, hey, they can reach that 10-win plateau? I don't think so. Not with the talent that they've added. I think they've definitely upgraded in a number of spots, maybe downgraded a little bit in others in terms of, losing the Will Johnsons and the Colson Lovelands. But I think the losses and the additions kind of not cancel each other out, but there's a lot to offset each loss with an addition. So I don't think
it's not it's not a fair apples to apples comparison because you have the season in the middle.
Right.
But I think about 21 to 22 a lot with this, where you feel like, I mean, I know you lost Hutch, you lost Ojabo, and it was like, how are you going to replace these guys? And it was the no-star defense, which I'm not saying this is a no-star defense, but it's not Mason Graham, it's not Kenneth Grant, it's not Will Johnson, right? Yeah. But they arguably have more depth, right? Michigan had more sacks in 22 than they did in 21. They just didn't have one guy get 15 sacks, right?
Right.
So I think that's where it'll be. But anyway, yeah, I know it's early, but I mean, that's gonna be the expectation every year, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're not wanting 10 wins, then why even bother showing up?
Yeah. Especially in this era, and you tell me you've got NIL figured out and you've got all these other things in place, like,
right.
I mean, I'm not unreasonable. I don't think you need to be Alabama undefeated every year. I'm going to be mad you lose a game, right? You play a tough schedule, whatever, but
yep.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's talk. Last thing I want to wrap up. Obviously, the game won't be televised on Saturday. It's going to be played back on delay, which, again, I guess that is the compromise for this whole weird tampering thing.
Yeah, I guess.
Whatever. I hate it. I think it's stupid. It's overblown, but whatever. At least you're still having the game, I guess. If you can get out there, look, it's free. It's a cool opportunity. Like Josh said, I don't know what the weather's going to be. I never look till the day before because I don't trust it. But it's a cool vibe. It's a cool opportunity to get in the stadium and take a bunch of pictures because there's not too many people there. Again, if the weather's good, I think it's probably going to be one of the most attended spring games in a long, long time because of Bryce. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Is it a noon start?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they might. Right now, it's saying Saturday's chance of precipitation at 55%. So, right now at 12 p.m., there is a 0% chance of rain, and then it goes up to 10% between 1 and 2. So, knowing Michigan, that'll be torrential downpours.
so right. So Noah, this is what I was getting into as far as
Oh, well, Trevor's gone. So anyway, that's what he was getting into. It was about they'll still have updates, and we'll there's a lot to take away. You know what, Brock there, Dennis is going to be there. Trevor's going to have it all from the sidelines. So we're gonna have a bunch of coverage on, and he's back. So I killed enough time for him to come back. So now he's back. I'll let Trevor take it.
I haven't done that in so long. I have got to disable that feature on my mouse. I never use it. If it happens, it's on accident. So
yeah, it's the worst.
It's dumb. Okay, hi. So yes, we are going to have tons of coverage on that day. Dennis will be in the press box with Brock. Dennis has done an awesome job covering and getting information on the spring game from the stands. He's gonna be happy to be warm. I will be spending the first year on the sidelines. This year I'll be taking photos, so I will be sure to post a photo gallery as soon as I can. Hopefully that night. Dennis will have his podcast reviewing with Scar. We're going to have Hail to the podcast with the three of us going over everything we've seen. Are you still trying to get in? Are we getting another photographer potentially, you said?
Maybe another photographer. It's a maybe. I will have to see. I think we'll be good with the three, but we'll see.
Yeah, either way. So we're going to have it covered. We know it's a weird thing, but at MaizeBlueReview.com. Yeah, I know it never.
Juju's comment, it will be under an hour. Hey, we're almost.
Yeah, 3 minutes. 3 minutes isn't over bad, dude. We're usually hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. So I'll give it time.
Hey, we still got 27 minutes to find.
I got 2 Circuit City references that could delay this. But...
yeah, we got 27 minutes to fill some dead air here.
So make sure you're following us. I've got the Twitter handles up, but make sure you're over at Michigan.rivals.com. I recognize a lot of names. I know a bunch of you are subscribers already. If you're not subscribed, we'll have a live update feed in there from inside the stadium where, again, you'll have Dennis and Brock posting. Josh will be posting. I'll hopefully be able to load some pictures while I'm doing it. It's just going to be the best way to cover. I know it's kind of lame. I'm not trying to be like, hey, it's not on TV. Make sure, blah, blah, blah. But
Well, I mean, you got to find it somehow. If you don't want to wait,
Yeah.
if you want to wait a week, then that's fine. But if you want stuff immediately, you know where to
Yeah.
find it.
Yep. And again, if you're not a subscriber already, promo code BLUE30 get you the first month free. Give us a shot. Like I said, I always say, I know we'll try and sell ourselves, but come into the den, talk to our subscribers. You'll see the community, and I think they'll have plenty of good things to say, and hopefully you stick around. But yeah, other than that, Dennis will have more coverage during the week. Final spring practices. I'm guessing we'll hear the rosters. Some players have already started to tweet out the Blue Steve Maize thing. They get leaked on Thursday or Friday.
Yep.
Worst case, when we get in the press box, they're sitting on the table. That'll be when we find out worst case, but I wish they put that out sooner. It'd be fun. Just a fun thing to talk about for a week. But
yeah, knowing that this game is it's delayed a week, I have a feeling that they won't release the rosters and they'll just be on the piece of paper sitting on the table.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, they'll probably release them, but it's
to be fair, I don't know if they had a say in releasing them in the past.
Yeah,
they find their way of getting out, right?
It's Michigan, so who knows?
I have to say, last note, I cannot believe this has been a more yellow submarine spring break than anything Harbaugh did.
It's been entrenched.
Crazy.
Sherrone has done a really good job of keeping everything under lock and key. I mean,
even the social media. I mean, the amount of stuff they've been putting out.
Yep.
And I will say it's smart.
Yep.
What they do put out, I mean, the Bryce Jadyn thing that they put out was very smart timing and coordinated and whatever. So they've been good. Very deliberate. You're right. And then there was, I'm not going to say it. There was one player that got put in a clip that was kind of like a little interesting tell.
Yeah.
And that mistake was not made again. And that clip was edited. Like, they're not messing around.
No.
So we appreciate you guys coming along with our intel that we have been able to share, but man, it's been tight this year. And hey, maybe that's a reaction to last year. Who knows?
Yeah, honestly, I'm fine with it. Again, not to rehash what we just talked about in the beginning of the show, but I'm fine with it.
Coming full circle.
Yeah, because I would rather
I wish we got an open practice.
Undersell than oversell and not have it come to.
Give me one open practice.
Right. Oh God, yeah. Yeah, that's all right. No, don't say that because we're gonna be here until an hour 30 because I'm gonna go.
Prove Juju right that there's no chance in hell.
There's no reason why we can't go and watch practice. But again, I'm not getting into that because I will divulge into a big tangent.
Good Lord, Derek.
Derek's what we missed. It's what we missed. He's always good.
Yeah. The only pair that can beat a full house. That's almost too corny for me. Football night. Oh, who did I see? Damn it. I gotta be prepared for these. This will be my last. I need to have a football neck of the week or something like that. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find a recent picture of him.
FNOTW.
What?
Your FNOTW.
I just spell it out.
Football neck of the week.
It was in one of the videos. I think they were doing it was football hot take or something like that. Shoot. Anyway, Zach Marshall.
Oh, okay.
That boy's got a football neck.
I didn't see that video. I'll have to go look.
I mean, I'm looking at some previous pictures of him, and I'm like, yeah, a little bit. But there was, again, I don't remember if it was. I think it was that hot take thing or whatever.
Yeah.
That Michigan was doing, and I was like, oh my God.
Interesting.
And I actually thought to myself, hey, I got to remember that for the next football deck conversation, and I completely forgot.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him having that.
Yeah.
Having that football deck.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Try to remember. I'm trying to find the least creepy picture I can. This will work. There he is. And this was from a year ago, I think. Yeah, a while ago.
Oh yeah, you see it.
That's a good football, and it's much more than that now.
Well, I'm not a big fan of the hand sign, but that's all right. I mean, we'll just ignore that part. Good grief, dude. Out of all the hand signs you can make, you make that one.
That has a lot of meanings, not just the very, very obvious one.
Yeah, I suppose.
Did
Anyway,
I do it again?
what?
Oh, okay. I swiped away again. All right, let's go. Pause.
Yep.
Good neck, yeah. It's a running gag about having. See, this is the best part of the show. Once the Circuit City references come out, that's when.
Right. We're just notorious horrible closers at podcasts. We don't know how to end podcasts, so we always just BS about stuff. But it's always good. I mean, because it always involves the listeners, so it's I don't mind it. I always have a good time.
65-70 flat-footed, but he could throw it 80. Bryce. That was one of the clips that got. I think that was Bryce's own Instagram though, where he was standing flat and threw it, and you could do the math, and it was like, good God, dude,
that kid could sling it.
The Trevor Circuit City podcast, all of your old co-workers. Oh my God.
Jeez. That's radio for two.
I was just about to say, I think that'd be a lot of fun to talk about. I've kind of shared like the best stuff about that already, though, where we would like play video games a week before they came out on the TV wall and whatever. I mean, that's pretty much the extent of it, but I don't know. I don't even know. I think I only know like one or two people anymore. That was almost 20 years ago, dude. God, I'm old. Okay.
Yep. I hear you.
So, hail to the podcast again. Normally live Sundays at 7. I'm assuming with the spring game, that's going to be our plan this week as well. Bump to the Monday. Appreciate you adjusting. Like, subscribe, notification bell so you know when we go live. Not with this show, but Dennis's daily show live during the week. Not always daily, but his live show during the week, during the day. And then, of course, his breakdowns and post-game shows as well, which will be on break for a little bit till these sports begin again. But, and of course, head over to michigan.rivals.com where we're going to continue to post any intel we get. And I know we didn't talk about basketball. There has been some basketball intel, obviously the portal and some final moves continuing to happen there. I think just depending on how after the spring game, how the news trickles out, we'll talk about more basketball coming up probably, but it's football season year round. You know that.
Good idea. Yeah, well, we're having a show meeting during the episode of discussing what we're gonna do. We're having a show meeting.
I won't be an A2 Friday, leaving very, very, very early Saturday morning. So yeah. Well, we talked about with basketball, dude. I don't want to get in the game of, hey, let's list all the names of players who agents have claimed Michigan's talking to them. I'm just not getting into any of that.
Yeah. Well, and just we gotta wait until like NBA draft season comes along too, because then we can talk about Yaxel and all that.
That's really the story at this point, right? Dusty's done a great job. Is Yaxel going pro or not? That's it. So, all right. Anyway, thank you again. Good to see the amount of comments, live folks in here. Please tell your friends, share this on social media, whatever you can do to help us kind of build this following back up again after us missing some time. And otherwise, we'll see you next time. Hail to the podcast.